A line of cars slowly descended the hill. The traffic jam was dreadful, and as far as the eye could see, red taillights flickered in the distance. "Well, it looks like we'll be driving like this until night," he thought to himself as he reached for a pack of cigarettes. One foot on the brake, the other controlling the clutch, ready to shift gears quickly. A ritual honed over the years. His hand automatically grabbed a cigarette and brought it to his lips, then reached for the lighter. The smoke from the tobacco wafted through the car's interior. "I should quit," he mused. "Natasha keeps nagging me about it, bad for the blood vessels and all that. But how can I quit with this job?" He sighed heavily, pondered for a moment, and froze, struck by a simple thought. Wait a minute. Who is Natasha? And where am I even going? And who am I, actually? Impatient honking from behind interrupted his thoughts, as if to say, "Come on, why are you stopped? Don't hold up the line. Can't you see the car in front of you has already moved?" He lightly pressed the gas pedal, gradually accelerating the car. Chaos reigned in his mind. As soon as he asked himself a question, his consciousness was flooded with images and fragmented memories. Faces he couldn't recognize, unfamiliar voices. Now he was sitting in a towel, sweaty and flushed, drinking beer. Around him, other men in towels were sitting, but who were they? It was hard to make out, everything was blurry. Suddenly, a woman's cry and sobbing were heard. An old kitchen, so familiar and homey, with wallpaper that hadn't completely faded and a greasy stove with an iron pot on it. On the blue glaze of the pot were pictures of flowers and small mushrooms. A girl in a bathrobe was sitting at the table, crying. Why? Did he offend her? Blonde hair and a small mole above her lip. And her eyes were so sad. And now a new scene, he was looking at himself in the mirror. In the reflection, a young man, well-groomed and clean-shaven, in a suit and tie, a crisp white shirt, neatly combed hair. He had an important event ahead, and he needed to make the best impression. Images kept flashing before him, but the traffic jam was slowly dispersing. The car ahead turned right at the intersection. The road straightened out, stretching to the horizon. Hills gave way to sparse woods. The sun was still shining brightly, but the sunset was approaching. And he hadn't even noticed the changes, lost in his thoughts and sensations. His eyes caught the license plate of the car in front of him, and it felt like they were looking into another world. There were people there, sitting at a table, their heads bowed over empty plates. Waiting for something. Food was served, and each of those present received a pancake and a sprinkle of rice. They ate in silence and modesty. Wine was poured into glasses. Only then did a burly man with a crooked, broken nose speak up. I want to say. Alexei, well, Lyoka, as we call him, always stood up for justice. He had his own sense of honor. We've known each other for a long time. I remember when he first came to the office, all dressed up in a suit. I thought, why the hell are you dressed like that? You're supposed to carry solar panels to people's homes, and you're dressed like you're going to a wedding. The vision disappeared, and he shook his head in amazement, looking around. The road was empty, and he was alone on it. Streetlights along the side of the road lit up, dispelling the approaching darkness. Lyoka, that's what they called him. Alexei. He remembered his name, and he remembered that man. His hand reached for the pack of cigarettes again. What was happening? Where was he going? Why there? Should he turn back? Stop. His foot hovered over the brake pedal, but he didn't press it. Some force, showing him these visions, demanded that he continue the journey, and he couldn't resist it. This is not the end, you haven't arrived yet," a voice whispered softly in his head. "Everything will be fine, everything will be as it should be." The radio crackled with interference. Numbers flickered on the car's stereo, searching for a stable radio signal. In the cacophony of sounds, snippets of music and incomprehensible babble emerged. STTT top. Natasha FFFF finish. Don't cry, Natasha. Finish. The receiver switched, finally catching another wave. Clear and confident, without noise or extraneous sounds. A girl was singing, accompanied by a soft male choir. On the long forest road, in the dark and dangerous times. In wakefulness and in dreams, you will come to me. You will come to me someday. With a calm and slightly melancholic voice, she soothed him. The rising anxiety slowly released its grip, letting go of its prey. "Let's sit by the campfire, just the two of us, in the quiet of the night. Your journey is over, sleep in my arms, forget everything." It grew darker, but the road continued straight ahead. No signs, no other cars. Time seemed to slow down and then stop altogether. Only the lampposts passing by counted the moments. But they became fewer and farther between. When darkness finally swallowed the asphalt, Alexei switched on his high beams. Enchanted by the quiet music, he entered a trance-like state. Visions returned, people talking about him, sharing stories, and smiling knowingly. Those smiles carried emptiness and a poignant sadness. Everyone understood everything, but one had to maintain composure and not reveal true feelings. And he recalled himself. Their words were like keys to locked doors labeled childhood, school, university, army, family, friends. Behind each door lay something important and incredibly valuable. A part of himself. His identity, his essence. Lyoka didn't notice at first that a small orange dot appeared on the horizon. It wasn't there, and now it was. It was shining in the distance. What was it? Who was there? But what did it matter? Was it important? Not at all. What did some distant light mean compared to what he was feeling now? A heap of names, voices, emotions flooded over him in a massive wave, submerging his consciousness in a sea of memories. The asphalt ended, and a gravel road began. He had to slow down and then come to a stop, leaning against the wall of the dark forest. The faint light from the small point in the distance turned into the outline of a flickering flame beyond the trees. It seemed like this was the right way. He turned off the ignition, pulled the handbrake, and got out of the car. It was damp and chilly. He shivered and buttoned up his jacket, trying to retain the remaining warmth. Approaching the looming trees, he hesitated for a moment, gathering his courage, and took an uncertain step forward. The trees gently embraced him with their branches and let him pass, closing the path behind him. The moon peeked out, illuminating the night forest, and in its light, Alexei noticed a small clearing among the ferns. He didn't walk long before the trail abruptly ended with a wide clearing, at the center of which a bonfire burned. On either side of the fire pit were two fallen logs, with smoothed and polished wooden surfaces. This place didn't look inhabited, but travelers apparently found their way here frequently. There were no signs of presence, no tents, no tables, no camping gear. Only the fire crackled cheerfully with dry wood. Alexei approached and sat by the fire, only then noticing a small flat stone on which rested an engraved glass and a cigarette. It came in handy now, a drink wouldn't hurt, and a smoke would be nice. He had thrown his last cigarette away by the car. He took the offered offerings, thoughtfully crushed the cigarette in his hand, and lit it. A gulp from the glass followed. Vodka, no doubt. For some reason, there was no doubt, not even the thought that this might be someone else's, that it wasn't meant for him. He could have it. In the darkness, quick movements of someone's shadows could be glimpsed. They circled nearby but didn't dare enter the circle of light. But there was no fear. The night promised to be long. Long enough to contemplate his life, the most important things that had happened in it. Today, a special guest would come to him, and for this meeting, it was worth undertaking this entire journey. He had heard her voice on the radio, she sang him that song and called to him. He remembered everything. The final door, with the sign, Death, had been opened. People slowly made their way toward the exit, passing by old, overgrown graves, rusty fences with peeling paint, and monuments with half-erased epitaphs. Behind them, a fresh mound of sand, flowers, and a wooden cross with a photograph could be seen. A young man in the pic. Below, there was a plaque, Alexei Yuryevich Suparenkov, April 10, 1980 to October 7, 2023.